BLT. Crispy bacon meets fresh veggies for a simple contrast. BLT, short for bacon, lettuce, and tomato, is built on the simple contrast between crispy bacon and fresh vegetables. The bacon is usually fried until the fat renders and the edges become crunchy, creating a salty, smoky base layer. Slices of tomato add moisture and sweetness, while crisp lettuce provides freshness and texture. Everything is stacked on toasted bread with mayonnaise, which adds creaminess and helps keep the bread from getting soggy. As the warm bacon rests against the toast, a bit of its rendered fat soaks into the bread, adding richness while the vegetables keep the sandwich bright and fresh. Grilled cheese. The simplest hot sandwich, perfected. At its core, this is one of the simplest hot sandwiches imaginable. 2 slices of bread are buttered on the outside and cooked in a pan until the surface turns golden and crisp. Sliced cheese melts into a smooth, stretchy layer that binds the bread together. American cheese is the most traditional choice because it melts evenly and creates a smooth, creamy center. As the sandwich cooks, the butter helps the bread develop a deep golden crust, and the heat slowly turns the cheese into a molten center that stretches when pulled apart. Club sandwich. 3 layers of flavor, held together perfectly. The club sandwich is known for its distinctive stack structure. It is typically built as a triple-layer sandwich using 3 slices of toasted bread. Between those layers are roasted turkey or chicken, crispy bacon, lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. The sandwich is usually cut into triangular quarters and secured with toothpicks to hold the tall layers together. The extra slice of bread in the middle separates the ingredients into layers, preventing the fillings from sliding while also creating a taller, more structured sandwich. Pastrami on rye, one of the most famous sandwiches associated with New York delicatessens. Thick slices of smoked pastrami are piled high on rye bread, and they are usually served with spicy brown mustard. Pastrami begins as beef that has been cured, coated in spices like coriander and black pepper, then smoked and finally steamed until tender. That final steaming step softens the meat and warms the fat, so each slice becomes juicy and delicate. The peppery crust, sharp mustard, and earthy rye bread work together to balance the richness of the fatty meat. Reuben. A deli classic with bold, fermented flavors. Reuben. A deli sandwich built around the strong flavors of cured meat and fermented cabbage. It typically uses slices of corned beef layered with sauerkraut and Swiss cheese on rye bread. Russian or Thousand Island dressing adds a creamy, tangy element that balances the saltiness of the meat. The sandwich is grilled on a flat surface until the bread becomes crisp and the cheese melts into the layers. The result is a rich mix of salty, tangy, creamy, and toasted flavors in every bite. Philly cheesesteak. Thinly sliced beef meets melted cheese in a soft roll. Philly cheesesteak. Originating in Philadelphia, this sandwich centers around thinly sliced beef cooked on a hot, flat-top grill. The meat is chopped and seared quickly, so the edges develop browning while the interior stays juicy. Melted cheese is then folded into the beef, traditionally either provolone or a processed cheese sauce. The mixture is loaded into a long roll that is soft on the inside, but sturdy enough to hold the filling. Many versions add grilled onions, which caramelize on the griddle and add sweetness to the savory beef. French dip. Dive into tender roast beef and savory au jus. French dip. This sandwich features thinly sliced roast beef, served on a long roll, alongside a cup of hot beef broth known as au jus. The meat is typically roasted until tender, then shaved into delicate slices before being layered inside the bread. Diners dip the sandwich into the broth before each bite, allowing the bread to absorb the savory liquid. The dipping process softens the crust slightly while intensifying the beef flavor, creating a rich, deeply savory bite. Meatball sub. Hearty meatballs and tomato sauce in a soft roll. Meatball sub. A hearty sandwich built around large meatballs simmered in tomato sauce. The meatballs are typically made from seasoned ground beef or a mixture of meats and cooked until tender. They are placed inside a long roll and covered with additional tomato sauce and melted cheese, usually mozzarella or provolone. When baked or broiled briefly, the cheese melts over the meatballs while the bread absorbs some of the sauce, creating a rich and hearty sandwich. Cuban sandwich, pressed layers of pork, ham, and cheese. Cuban sandwich, a pressed sandwich built from layers of roasted pork, sliced ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard. Everything is stacked inside Cuban bread and placed in a sandwich press, where the loaf is flattened and toasted. The pressure compresses the ingredients, so the bread becomes crisp on the outside while the interior layers fuse together. The result is a dense sandwich with a balance of salty ham, juicy pork, melted cheese, and the sharp tang of pickles. Italian beef, thinly sliced beef simmered in savory gravy. Chicago Italian beef. This sandwich starts with beef that has been roasted and sliced extremely thin. The slices are simmered in a seasoned broth known as gravy, which keeps the meat moist and intensely flavorful. The beef is piled into a long Italian roll and often topped with giardiniera, a mixture of pickled vegetables. Many versions are briefly dipped into the hot broth before serving, which soaks the bread with savory beef juices while leaving the meat tender and aromatic. Po' boy, a long sandwich associated with Louisiana cuisine traditionally served on a light and airy French loaf. The filling is often fried seafood, such as shrimp or oysters, though roast beef versions are also common. The fried seafood is coated in seasoned batter and cooked until crisp, before being loaded into the bread. Lettuce, tomato, pickles, and mayonnaise are often added. Because the bread has a thin crust and a soft interior, it compresses easily around the filling, making it possible to bite through the entire sandwich. Muffuletta, a New Orleans specialty with bold olive salad. Muffuletta, a large round sandwich that originated in New Orleans. It is built on a wide sesame loaf and filled with layers of Italian deli meats such as salami and ham along with sliced cheeses. What defines the sandwich is the olive salad, a mixture of chopped olives, vegetables, and oil that spreads through the layers. As the sandwich rests, the olive mixture slowly soaks into the bread and meats, creating a bold, briny flavor throughout the entire loaf. Lobster roll, delicate lobster meat in a toasted, buttered bun. Lobster roll, a seafood sandwich closely associated with coastal New England. Chunks of cooked lobster meat are lightly dressed and served inside a split-top bun that is usually buttered and toasted. In Maine-style versions, the lobster is often mixed with mayonnaise, while Connecticut-style rolls are served warm with melted butter instead. Because lobster has a delicate sweetness and firm texture, the preparation is intentionally simple so the meat remains the focus. The lightly toasted bun adds a buttery softness that complements the tender lobster. Pulled pork, slow-cooked pork shoulder on a bun. Pulled pork sandwich, a barbecue sandwich made from pork shoulder that has been slow-cooked for many hours. During the long cooking process, the connective tissue in the meat breaks down into gelatin, turning the tough cut into tender strands that can be pulled apart easily. The warm honey melts slightly into the crunchy coating, creating a glossy glaze that clings to the breading, making it shine. The sweetness from the honey helps to mellow out the spice, while pickles or a creamy sauce introduce acidity to balance out all that richness. The final sandwich is where crispy fried chicken, that sticky sweetness, and a touch of gentle heat all come together in a single perfect bite. A chopped Italian sandwich. This is a more recent viral trend that was inspired by traditional Italian deli subs. Instead of carefully layering all the meats and toppings whole, everything is actually chopped up together right on a cutting board. The deli meats, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and dressing are all finely chopped until they've formed a really cohesive mixture. That cohesive mixture is then scooped into a long bread roll. Because everything is chopped together, every single bite will contain a balanced combination of meat, vegetables, and dressing. Then there's the chicken and waffle sandwich, a sweet and savory sandwich that pairs fried chicken with waffles instead of bread slices. The waffles actually act as the outer layers, while the crispy chicken sits in the middle. Maple syrup or honey is often drizzled over the chicken, adding some sweetness that contrasts with the salty crust of the fried meat. The waffles provide a soft interior with lightly crisp edges, and the syrup soaks in slightly to the hot waffle, creating a combination of breakfast flavors and fried chicken all in a single bite. From deli classics piled high with cured meat to modern fried chicken creations just dripping with sauce. Really great sandwiches are defined by their contrasts with crisp textures, rich meats, and bright toppings. Let us know down in the comments what we should cover next. And don't forget to subscribe, and thanks so much for watching.